Hi, everyone. This is Alex Bullock from ITG Commerce. For those of you that don't know us, ITG Commerce is an implementation partner of a number of commerce platforms. We work with Adobe, Magento, Shopware, Commerce Layer. My role here is to lead sales, marketing, and partnerships. And I recently had the privilege of reading a report that was written by Mark Friedman that led me to a number of questions. And I reached out to Mark and asked him if he would have a chat with us that we could record to share for our audience and our people that follow us. And he was very kind to agree to give us 15 or 20 minutes of time and talk about that report. So Mark, maybe say hello, do a quick personal introduction for some context, and then we'll chat about the report that you wrote recently.
Thanks, Alex. Nice to see you today, and glad to be able to chat about the report. I've spent my career in, for the most part, digital commerce, a lot of physical retail as well. I've been on the brand side of things, making decisions like we're talking about, how and when to re-platform and maybe who to use to re-platform. And now I spend most of my time on the consulting side, helping brands both on an interim basis and sometimes on a project and consulting basis on their digital business, helping to bring a fresh set of eyes to them.
Awesome. So yeah, maybe just a little bit about the report. The thing that kind of captured my attention the most is you and Rick Watson put this report together, and it was largely focused on talking about kind of mid-market commerce and the options that mid-market retailers have. And here at ITG, we focus primarily on solutions for mid-market and sort of lower enterprise businesses, often those with like uniquenesses and complexity to their business. And so it was just a really interesting topic for us to think about. And anyways, I had a few questions and thought we'd just have some open discussion on them. So the first question that I had was kind of with so much kind of unhappiness with existing platforms that are available for mid-market merchants, yet so much reluctance to take on the cost and challenge of re-platforming. What does it actually take for a business leader to take the plunge on a new platform in 2024? What are you seeing out there that are the reasons why somebody would be like, oh, yeah, it's time. I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to go do it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. Number one, so many people that we talk to really don't like the platform that they're on. Whether they've re-platformed recently or they've been on the platform for a while, they're like, yeah, it could always be better. I think the reason that some people are taking the plunge now is either they've got what I like to call a Frankenstein situation going on. They've built code on top of code on top of code. And now, when they make changes, they break other things, and it's an inefficient way for them to innovate. I think the other thing is, oftentimes, there's been lots of change in C-suites. There's changes at VP of Commerce or CIO level. Many of the people that are in roles today maybe don't feel the sense of authorship or ownership of the platform that they're responsible for bringing forth to the customer, because they weren't there when it was built. And now, in a perfect world, if they feel like they can start from scratch and they be the creator, maybe that's a good way forward. Unfortunately, these are big, long, and expensive projects in many cases, and just because you weren't the one that created it is not always a good selling point to management to make a change.
Totally. I would add to that, we see actual re-platforms being few and far between at this point in time. And the few times when somebody does approach us and is looking to re-platform, a lot of the times they've kind of almost given up on the roadmap and the vision of the provider that they have, the piece of technology that they chose, and they just can't imagine being aligned to where they're going in 2, 3, 4 years, and they just feel like they don't have another choice at that point. But it almost takes like that amount of challenge to get to the point where they're like, yeah, we've got to make this a priority to move off of one thing and onto the next. My next question was like, for the mid-market merchants that are stuck on their existing platforms, where could they make incremental investments to remain competitive and agile?
Yeah, I think that many of us fall prey to the shiny object syndrome. I like to talk about that, and oftentimes you don't need other feature and function. You can go get things, especially now with the heyday of AI and all these extra pieces of functionality that you can add in to help improve conversion rate, to help improve your average order. Anything that you can do to reduce friction in the checkout path, is helpful. I'm kind of a believer, and this kind of goes against the folks that are selling technology and selling implementations. But from a brand's perspective, I think a lot of these brands are getting way more traffic than they really need. In order to be, to grow their business efficiently. What they really need to do is double down on, thinking about, once they get the traffic, what are they doing with that traffic? Are you taking customers, as deeply into the site as possible? Are you allowing people to, make that checkout, with less friction? So yes, there's some incremental things you can do with other feature and function, but I think focusing on your site experience is another great place to improve.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think also, we've reached this point of maturity with commerce platforms, whereas one really that different from the other, and focusing on sort of the inherent uniqueness of your own business model, the last 10% that makes you different from your competitors. And in some cases, maybe you need technology to focus on that. In other cases, it's just a question of working on optimization of certain processes and so on. But I think often what I think about when you want to make improvements is, let's spend less time worrying about the pieces that are completely commoditized and kind of the same across all technology platforms, and more in the space that's really, really unique and bespoke to what makes you different. What kind of evidence are we seeing of mid-market merchants really sinking their teeth into composable commerce? And what are the specific business challenges they are facing in ascending down that path? We're thinking about this a lot. I mean, 2023 was, for ITG, was a year of putting a lot more investment and energy into composable commerce technologies. And it's just like we see so much sort of adoption of this in the enterprise, right? I mean, Commerce Tools has really built a big business in the enterprise. And I'm constantly wondering, like, medium-sized and mid-market merchants, should they be looking at this? And if so, like, what are the reasons that they specifically should be considering a composable path rather than an all-in-one path? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you kind of teed this up, really well, is that there's not a lot of reason, I think, for these smaller brands to be doing this. Oftentimes they have small tech teams, might be, very capable for the size business and the kind of technology that they have. If you now, start moving into things that are newer, less refined, less fine-tuned, like composable and headless, you may just not have the right tech organization to support that. And I think that's part of why people are not. The other thing is, we'll talk about this perhaps, the overall business climate today. Unless there's a significant innovation that comes from this, does it allow me to do some things, back to your earlier question, does it allow me to do some things that I can't do, that I need to do for the health of my business? Or if there's not a significant reduction in the total cost of ownership of my platform, then I'm not sure there's a real opportunity and need to go off and go down this path.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel slightly brighter, but only just for like a little niche, right? Like, I think that, like, even as a business that doesn't work in Shopify, like, Shopify has been a good thing for the mid-market. Like, if you're if you're part of that majority of customers that has standard needs that fit inside what they offer, like, it's tremendous that a solution that comprehensive exists today. But if you're doing something that's much more complex, much more niche, you really want to own and control the user experience. Maybe you've got a strong internal IT team, and you want to curate something that's much more unique and a much more unique business model. That becomes like the conversations that we're having with companies that are considering composable commerce journeys, but still in the mid-market. They are really the ones that are in that I don't know, last 10 or 15% of unique, bespoke, custom sort of businesses that you feel like they could achieve it.
When I think about when I got started in the digital, space, and I was working for retailers, and pretty much for the last 20 years have, the amount of time and energy that people in my role needed to be spending in technology related, topics and decisions was far greater than it is now. And back
Yeah,
then it was taking away our time from being good marketers and good product people and good retailers, physical retailers, and getting strong customer service, because we were thinking about, well, are we going to be hosting it? Where are we hosting it? Do we have enough iron to be
totally.
able to handle the peaks? With the advent of Shopify and others like it's allowed us to really be retailers again.
Yeah, I think that's a good thought. The fourth question here. So to what extent is the economic climate influencing business decisions to avoid or delay replatforming? We've seen the boom in the spending of commerce technologies through COVID, the pullback on that and everything that's been going on in the world over the last kind of 12 to 18 months. And it's not super clear where we go in this industry in the year ahead. But be curious to just kind of know your thoughts on the mood around that, and when you're talking to retailers and merchants, how much of their desire to be aggressive or conservative with their decisions is economic based.
Yeah, look, there's always going to be those that are leading and are going to want to lean into their, current strong performance. But even the strong performers are making, cutbacks in headcount. They are cutting back on capex, and that's a whole other economic discussion of, the economy seems to still be strong, but we're seeing, lots of layoffs. I'm seeing lots of businesses look at capex for 2024 and thinking about, really cutting back from where they were in 22 and in 23. Almost many of them, focused on keeping the lights on as opposed to really being developmental. So if that's really the flavor of the times, thinking about replatforming is probably not on the priority list. But I would say, being inquisitive and keeping up with the times, even if you're not ready today, you should understand who the players are that are out there. So when cash does free up, when you feel like you need to make a change, you have good edification about what's out there.
Yeah, definitely. Good points. So your report really focused on kind of Adobe, Magento, Salesforce, Shopify as like the main and historical players for the mid-market. And then, you discussed BigCommerce, Commerce Tools, Shopware, and VTEX kind of as the Shopify alternatives, I think really sort of presented as, I might be paraphrasing. But my thoughts on that are like, are we really in a world where the pickings are so slim? Is there anybody else out there that's doing exciting things for mid-market merchants, particularly when the complexity is high and the uniqueness is there? And I have some thoughts on that, but I wanted to ask you that. It seems like we're into such a narrow world of choices in 2024 if you're a medium-sized merchant.
Yeah, well, look, that was really the thesis behind, the report itself, and not to specifically talk about who are the others. Yes, there are some other smaller players. They're more boutique, more niche. You don't hear them winning a lot of business. In the cynical, sarcastic world of Mark, it's they're winning some of these business. The business that they are winning, they're getting because they have a particular client who has a particular need for something that they can solve. Back to something you said earlier about that edge 10%. Maybe they had a good relationship with somebody who's now moved to another brand and they win it that way. But I think if you kind of look outside the box of that universe of names you called out and we talk about in the report, it's not very vast.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the world wants more choices, but maybe we don't have them at this moment in time. I always find that interesting when you pick up, like, I don't remember the last time that the Gartner Magic Quadrant was released for this sector, and it's still like 20 options, but like there. The world that we're presenting and that your report presents is largely the right hand side, and then it kind of makes me wonder like what's actually going on with these providers that they get an honorable mention, and enough to be in the conversation, but don't seem to be actually like really making tangible progress enough to get momentum and keep going forward. But Mark, this is a great conversation. Again, I really enjoyed reading the report. I mean, there's such little stuff put out for specifically targeted at kind of medium-sized merchants, and I do think it's certainly an interesting topic for our clients, an interesting topic for our business and the industry as a whole. So appreciate you writing it, appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with us today, and anyone hasn't read the report, I suggest they do. And well, your contact information is in it. If anyone's interested in chatting with me about it, find me at itgcommerce.com.
Okay, Alex, nice to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.